Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Wargaming. I'm your host, Dom Maidlow, also known as Dark Technodom from the Real Space Raiders podcast. I've got a brilliant episode for you today. I have a new star to the 40k world, and his name is Adrian from Tabletop Titans. How are you doing, Adrian?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's been great to have you on because we've been chatting for a little bit.
Yeah.
I had you on almost like maybe like a year and a half ago on Real Space Raiders when Drakari just came out, and that podcast is very like new. So
Totally.
yeah, it's great to have you on. And for those of you that don't know Adrian, I'm sure everyone knows Adrian because your channel is probably, I would say, it's one of my favorite episodes, like channels to watch when I'm like hobbying or just like chilling out. It's they do live battle reports on YouTube where they have a great community, which is always like what do you have, like meme of the week, and there's always just so many. And it's a great community to be a part of because Tabletop Titans have an amazing Discord. They've got amazing fans, and they always come up with really creative ways to do battle reports, which is really good. And if you're not only into 40k, even though this is a 40k kind of centric like podcast that I do, you do Age of Sigmar as well, which is really cool. So can I ask, Adrian, what kind of started with you and Tabletop Titans? How did it kind of, what's the origin story here?
Yeah, so the origin was kind of around this concept that we knew we were interested in creating videos in kind of talking about that. Brian and I especially had already kind of been working in media, and we were designers, and there was a lot kind of in the space, but we noticed that the one thing that wasn't really consistently out there was a lot of really high quality live content, especially. So we kind of set out to see how we could kind of solve that issue, because of course, if anyone's ever done any editing that's listening right now, editing is a crazy amount of work. And so like it's just it's great, but you can only do so much with that, right? And so we knew if we were going to do this, we'd have to find a way to make this work live and make it easy and get as close as you can to basically walking into the studio, playing a regular game of Warhammer with your friends, and basically there happens to be a bunch of people watching, right? And so that was kind of the impetus behind the project of how can we get that up and going? How can we consistently put out content and just kind of have a great time and convey the things that we love about Warhammer to other people?
Yeah, I totally get that because a lot of the time when I'm kind of like working from home and I've got my double screen, I'll be tuning into like Twitch, and you see a lot of people on Twitch or on YouTube watching these live videos of, it could be Call of Duty, could be Apex Legends, could be all of these different games or League of Legends, and like there is a market out there where people just simply just want to chill out and watch games. And there wasn't really for Warhammer. It was kind of just the like filmed battle reports, and then they posted to YouTube, and then you can skip along and everything like that. With the way that you guys have designed it, it's very interactive, where you have all of your members like doing super chats, like asking questions directly to you guys, and you have these incredible like thematic boards, not just like just some like random cardboard terrain like stuck together with a bit of like glue and some sand. These amazing like boards, and every single time you have a battle report, there's always something completely different on the table. And I also like the start we did a little narrative bit. I think that's really cool.
Totally. Yeah, we're just kind of tying in everything that we love about it. And in a lot of ways, we kind of hope to be a bit aspirational. The idea is, can we like actually sit down and play like a White Dwarf kind of game and have it look beautiful with fully painted armies, everything ready to go? And so, yeah, although we don't do a ton of narrative stuff, we still like to do like that tying in the beginning, set the setting, and it's something that we've actually like leaned into more in as we've moved along, because people really love that. Even in like the most competitive style game, it's fun to kind of get into the world that you're playing. So
yeah, it's really cool. So what do you specifically do at Tabletop Titans?
That's a great question. So I have been full-time here for about a year and a half now, and so I do a lot of things. I wear a lot of hats. I used to be essentially the person that did a lot of the filming of the armies, the setup for that, set up the games and everything. And I still do a lot of that, although we even recently hired a new person who takes care of basically filming the clips, and I do a lot of the editing and setup. And so I kind of do that. I do a lot of on the planning side nowadays. I play every game essentially. We have, most of the other people will have like basically 2 shows that they do a week, producing and playing, or John just plays 2 games, but I'm there for every show. So I kind of have the overall picture for the studio and kind of planning for that. And then I also kind of have a lot of the technical chops from, an editing and design perspective. So
Yeah.
for our other battle reports and things like that, I end up being basically the kind of technical person on it. So, a day to day it's a lot of everything, really. It's kind of planning games, making sure matchups are good, getting the clips set up, and like preparing basically content and kind of planning for future content. We always have to be like, there's a big production queue even for these shows. So it's a lot of that.
Oh, cool. Like, it's really good to see that, like, that obviously, like, you're doing it full time, but when you're talking about it there, I can definitely see like you enjoy it as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there that probably want to quit their job and just go, all I want to do is the hobby, because like it's a very infectious hobby where there's just so much of it. Like this podcast, there's gaming, there's building a baden, like there's all these different things that you can do to like pass the time. And I think the reason why I personally love it is I love the competitive side of it, and I love like theory crafting, like all these like top competitive lists, and trying to chase the meta, but in my own sort of way. But then I also love the headspace I get from like sitting down, hobbying and painting my miniatures and converting things. Like I've just converted 20 possessed.
That's right. I saw that.
Yeah, yeah, it was really cool. I got I basically it was a local tournament down here called Twisted Warp, which is Twisted Dice, the YouTube channel, and
cool.
Something Warp is a club down here. And I basically won the major, but I got like a, I don't even know what it's called. It's up there somewhere. It's called a Shield Breaker Strike Force, which is like a space. And I got it, and I was really pleased with it. I got it home, and I was just looking at it, being like, these will be amazing possessed. Like
exactly.
all the assault intercessors, all the heavy intercessors, all of those, and I'm just like, I have no love for Space Marines at all. This is going to be an amazing like chaos army.
I love
Yeah, so I've been converting them for a while, and I've been getting lots of bits from Cromlech, because I think it's Cromlech do these amazing like shoulder pads for chaos, which are really cool, and they're kind of like chainmail going down here. And then I can't remember the other one, but I got these like resin claws, which are just like big crab claws, and I've got them on all of them. And then I basically just like drilled holes, stuck spikes in, and all of them. They actually look really cool. And I got to the point where I was happy, and I finished. I started basing them, and I realized they're all on the wrong size base.
Oh my god.
So I've got to that, and I've managed to find on eBay these base size of things. We just put them in, and then
the extenders.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna cover the outside in sand and just get on with it. But
that's like what's so fun, You get all those different aspects. Like that's the thing that keeps me just obsessed with this hobby. Is it's like you play the game, you have the hobbying side, the building side, the painting side, if you're into reading the books, that side of things, and they all kind of feed into each other. It's like if I'll play a game like, oh, I'm so pumped up for like this unit, and I'll go paint it, and then I'm like so pumped up to like play it, and it creates this like vicious cycle of just obsessing over this thing.
Oh, I completely agree, and that's why I think it's nice to kind of see you and your channel doing really well, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who want to do the same thing as you, and they'll take a lot of inspiration from the way you guys do like your channel, and also like people like PlayOn who have like, because you two both have like the highest quality in content, because like they're very thematic, and every time people watch it, they feel like they're kind of like in the moment. And that's why I do like your channel as well, because you actually are in the moment with you. Because if you're like in the UK, we can sometimes catch your battle reports,
sure,
some difference, but the community having it live, and I know Liam Dempsey does it a lot now with his battle reports, and where you can pay requisition to bring a blade or anything on.
That one is nuts.
Yeah, so it's really good as a YouTube channel to actually have a super active community, to be in the moment with you guys as you're living this battle that you're actually playing in front of you, which is really good, and that's what I think that makes your channel stand out above everyone else, because you have this uniqueness to you, which I think like brings people back because they want to be there, they want to be in the moment with you as well.
Thank you. Yeah, that. I mean, I think it's super, super important to have a strong community. You know, if you don't have a strong community, like, you're just going to fizzle out and die. And honestly, it was one of the things that we, from the very get-go, knew we wanted to make strong. We wanted to, you know, create this Discord community and have that kind of be a space for, you know, just people. You know, frankly, like, we are there, we like made it, but like there's so many different like subgroups even just within this Discord, people hanging out, talking about hobby, talking about, you know, comp stuff. And but we also knew that like part of the appeal is like the people playing, you know. So one of the things we did when we first started kind of streaming and figuring out this setup is a lot of battle reports, a lot of games for years and years and years were like all on the table, like face down. You couldn't see any like humans, and it's like, no, we play this game with people. You know, we always make jokes about like, oh, we just don't want to talk to anyone, but really, it's so social. And so it's like, what if we tilt the camera up, show the people, and show that, and like we can share those moments of like the perils, the double perils into another perils, you know, and like, you know, that moment, and it's exciting for everyone to like have like the perils emotes in chat and interact with that. I think it's so important.
Yeah, I totally agree. I really do agree. So we're talking a bit about hobby then with my possessed and like some chaos stuff that I'm building. So what is actually on your hobby table right now?
That's a great question. Gosh, I've been jumping around so many projects. The game is exciting again with Nephilim. So I find myself being inspired for a ton of projects. I've been working on Ember's Children, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I've had them in the closet for a number of years, just kind of waiting for something. And I was like, okay, this is it. This is time. So I have a bunch of Noise Marines that are all sanguinary guard bodies, because they've got the masks and the, you know, the nipples and everything. So it's very, you know, very Slaneshi. And with the sonic weapons and stuff like that. So I've got that going there. And then just finished painting up 10 Terminators using the Necromunda Goliath Forge World heads. They're like the alternative heads, and they have like crazy like mohawks and gas masks. Like some have like sonic, almost like, you know, screamer packs on their faces. It's so perfect.
Oh, that's cool.
So I've been working my way through all that. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Like I've been so excited for this Chaos release because I have a Night Lord's army, I've got a Demon's army, I've got a Chaos Knight army, and I've got an Emperor's Children army. And this book has already made me want to get a World Bearers.
Okay, that's great.
Because I'm doing these possessed and I'm reading through the rules being like, they're just better in word bearers. They're just so much better. And like I could, like, my cultists are kind of painted all right. I've got some like Marines, which are kind of, you could be in any legion for them. I feel like I just want to go full tilt into word I'm getting confused every time I say it. Word bearers, not world bearers.
The bearer eaters.
Yeah, exactly. But then when you look at what Red Corsairs, then you go bikes, and then you go, oh, hold on, they can be super far. Just bikes. And I'm going to a doubles tournament next weekend with one of my best mates, Lewis. I'm running Drukari as my 1,000 points, but weirdly they're doing the old CP, but all of the new rules.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I like because it's doubles, because like you'd have 3 CP each to.
Okay, I was gonna say if you're splitting them, then that kind of makes it.
Yeah.
Closer. Yeah.
So then they're not doing the new CP how you generate it. So they're not, even though it's all the new rules, they're keeping CP their own sort of custom thing. I think maybe because it's a doubles tournament, it might be a bit weird, because I can only spend my CP on my stuff. He can only spend his and his. So it's not pulled together. So like on turn 1, you choose one of you to have that command point, then the next turn I'll have it, that sort of thing.
Oh my god!
So it's really interesting.
That's cool.
But I'm running a Drukari Armor of Renowns, because I just said, right, I'm going mid board, and I went it's going Drazar, Homunculus, Hamoxites, Bitter, then 20 racks, 10 incubi, 5 incubi, and a venom, and that is literally the list. I was like,
It's
that's
so pure. I love it.
wins.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but he's going just completely like chaos bikes. As many chaos bikes as you can fit in. That's what he's doing.
Oh no, you're good. I've almost regret when. Let's see, when was this? Was right before 8th edition, I think. Yeah, it was end of 7th edition. I had just finished my Death Guard list, and it was like at the time everyone wanted the Nurgle bikes. You get the high toughness, all that stuff. So I like finished it, Nurgled them all up, and then 8th dropped, and they said, by the way, here's Death Guard book. You can't have bikes anymore. I was just like devastated. And of course, now years later, there's actually a reason to have some of these bikes out there again. And by now, at this point, I've converted them all into like Orcs and other stuff, and I'm like, regrets.
Yeah, I was the same. Like what was it, a year and a half ago? Maybe, yeah. I think maybe a year and a half ago. That was it. I sold my Tyranids to fund Drukhari, and then I literally, because I really like Pacific Rim and I love that all the anime and that sort of stuff. But I literally just had big monsters, and that's what I wanted was big monsters. And I could have had all of the nut stuff that happened just like 2 months ago. Before that, I could have had all the monster mash. So you should just keep your models is the moral of the story.
That's what I tell people. Like it all comes back around again. If something sucks right now, like it'll be back, you know?
It definitely will. Moving on. So what is your favorite 40k army to play now? Like right this second, what is your favorite army?
Okay, so it's gonna sound like I'm tailoring my answer, but I swear I'm not. But it is Harlequins right now.
Yes.
So, I know. Like I look, Orcs are like my true love, and I'm excited to try them with the new Nephilim stuff. But by and large, I've just been loving playing the Quins. Like especially after they knocked the Void Weavers out, I was like, cool. Now I can play Harlequins the way I like to play them, which is fast, mobile, a tools army. And actually, it was a lot of what I've been playing has been sort of, obviously from talking with you and seeing what works there, and just playing, mostly boats and troops, honestly. And it just gets back to like good fundamental Warhammer of playing movement, playing combat, doing all the tricks, and it's just so satisfying to play. I feel like I have a tool, or I have a solution for everything. So it just really synergizes with the way I like to play the game, and it's been a ton of fun.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you said there, because Harlequins, like when the Void Weavers went, and like everyone was like, oh no, now they're rubbish. I was sitting there being like, no, they're not.
No.
They're absolutely amazing still. All you need is boats.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Just go 9 boats. Here we go.
I looked at that nerf and I was like, this is the Drukhari again. They're gonna nerf one thing, not realizing that the next thing over is also amazing, and so on and so forth. And here we are, after just having hit them again. And I think they'll still be totally fine. It's just funny.
Yeah. Like I'm actually like struggling with myself at the moment on what I want to play at my next competitive event, because I'm at a 2-day competitive event like down here, and I'm trying to get all the Vanguard Tactics team to come as well, because they're the team I play for. But I don't know what to play. Like my head just goes chaos, but then in my heart I'm like, Drukhari are better than chaos, and so are Quins. But then who's better, Drukhari or Quins right now? And the meta in the UK is, I'm predicting it's going to be Sisters and Necrons are going to be the top dogs with Thousand Sons. So Thousand Sons, like both Drukhari and Harlequins can deal with Thousand Sons. It's fine. But it's then who's better Sisters? Probably Drukhari. And then, but the thing is, if Incubi didn't exist, Drukhari just wouldn't exist.
Of course.
They're literally the reason why they're so good. But then, who's better at Necrons? And I literally don't know, because like if you bring loads of witches, but then the witches are going to be rubbish into armor contempt. So you can't rely on the witches, because you might just play 3,000 Suns armies. So I'm really like struggling at the moment, like with what like the meta picks are. If you were going to an event next weekend and you literally bought a ticket right now, and you're like, right, going to a super major, and you're the Harlequins or Drukhari, and the meta at the time is Thousand Sons Sisters Necrons, which
I'd go Quins, honestly.
Yeah,
I think I'd still go Quins. Yeah, they still have the tools. The fusions, the neuros are going to be. They both have play into both those armies. And yeah, I think it does come down to. I think that I'd rather have Quins into the types of Necrons that we're going to be seeing.
yeah,
Right. That's the thing. If we were still seeing like tons of warriors or what, I mean, not that we ever saw that, but if we were seeing that, then it might be different. But we're not going to be seeing that, right? So I think I'd still go Quins, honestly. Like, late, of course. So yeah, I think that's where my money would be at.
yeah. Quins definitely do have play, especially with like doing mortals when they with the charge in with the big squads. Then they can do mortals and sixes, and then if you just get a ton of blade attacks, those flayed ones and Necron warriors will just go down. The only problem is now we can't really play dark. We can't really turn off that obsec, which is a bit frustrating.
It is a big deal. I was bummed that they hit dark as hard as they did. Because frankly, it wasn't the one that was sweeping the tournaments.
No.
I think it was probably smart in the sense that it was probably busted, probably a problem, but I don't think that we had necessarily the stats to show that. The stats were showing it was all light, so maybe they were kind of nipping that one in the bud by being like, yeah, if we hit light, then dark could be the one to go to. But I was surprised that they did what they did, to be honest, especially with Creations of Bile having the same exact mechanic. I know it's a different context, but yeah. So anyways,
I was fuming, honestly. Like as soon as like it happened, like that, what was it, 2 days before, I was just like, Harlequin survived the nerf. Yeah.
I know, I did the same thing. I was like, wait, the other foot hasn't dropped yet.
No. And then I just got a message from someone being like, just wait. And I was like, oh no, they know something. And then I hadn't looked at all my messages during the day because I was working. And I got home and I had like 100 messages being like trolling me and being like your army's dead. And I was like, what's dead? And then I looked at it, I was like, they did what?
Yeah.
Oh, why one mortal wound? Couldn't it just be on a 4-up, then they fight?
I know.
Like,
I don't understand it. It's not equivalent at all. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. How would you have changed it if you were physically writing the rule for that? How, and you had to nerf it? How
Yeah. I think, I mean, that's the main thing, honestly. Just don't make it consistent. It's on a 4-up. You're not really running big squads where you know that you can get a consistent number of attacks back if they die. If you're running these 5 or maybe 6 mans, what if the whole squad dies, it's 2.5 guys fighting, then it's suddenly not as reliable as it was.
Yeah.
And I think that would have been it, honestly. I think that would be fine. They're still only strength 4, so they're going to struggle into a lot of targets anyways. So yeah, I was surprised, frankly. I was.
So you mentioned how like Quins is like your sort of play style, like all of the shenanigans, and actually playing Warhammer rather than being like, I have the best list, punch, and then it's over. I'm the exact same wavelength for you. I prefer playing Warhammer the way it's meant to be played, where you play the mission, you play around and darts around. What other armies apart from the elf factions do you find have the same sort of like movement?
Ooh, that's a good question. So I will say I want to talk about orcs because I love orcs, and they're a faction that people don't think of as normally playing that way, right? But I think transports and advance and charge are just everything, right? So they have traditionally been very good at playing the utility game. So I'm all about things like commandos, things like storm boys. These are all things that are very kind of movement-based units. And then, of course, transports give you the ability to kind of have these stop gaps in between. And with truck boys, also moving and getting out, it's all about movement. So that is an army that people don't think of it in that fashion, but it's actually traditionally how I play that army as well. So it's all about tools. I'm a big Death Skulls person, so which is very unorky to be like, well, I don't have to kill them, I just have to take the point from them. But that's totally what I'll do. It's just like getting those little Storm Boy squads, jump on, nab a point, trade back and forth and stuff like that. So I would say that for sure. Other movement-based armies. So Drukhari, of course, is another example of the kind of the middle point of these two things we're talking about, where it is just like pure movement, but it's also movement with strats, but it's also transports, right? They're so famous for their boats, and when that was kind of at its not at its height, I remember the GT or the major that I won playing AdMech. I was going into it kind of like really feeling Drukhari at the time, to be honest. I loved the playstyle, but I was like, it was kind of like what we're talking about here, where I said, if I was going into this event, do I think that my Drukhari could beat my AdMech or vice versa? And at the time, I was like, frankly, I think they could, but they would have to play the best game of their life, you know it. And I was like, I don't have the reps on that yet, so I took AdMech and it went well. But that definitely was an army that was kind of that same play style. And then just basically because of the meta changes, then the course of the meta over the next few months, I ended up not really taking the Drukhari to many events, but that was another one that I was looking for as far as movement. And the last one I'll say is Sisters. Like
Deceptively.
they're so deceptive. They're all about movement, you know? Like I'm not a superstitious person, but I'm a little stitious, and I'm really bad at rolling. And so the Sisters being able to auto whatever kind of movement they need, auto out of reserve, auto charge, auto advance with the miracle dice, it's everything. And you can just plan everything out to a T. And that's the best thing. Like I hate it when plans go wrong. That's what scares me about Craft World is like everything's fine until you fail that key power.
Yeah.
So, and then those are a lot of these are the kind of the factions that I like to play because they're all about movement.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think movement armies are the funnest to play, and because I find just if you just take the biggest guns, it just gets a bit boring.
It's so boring.
I prefer to just like actually enjoy playing the Warhammer, and at top level with movement armies you can a lot because you can like you really test yourself, and when you come up against like players like Manny and Vic who are the notorious over here, they like you need movement because they're all about movement as well. So if you were to predict, we're gonna do a bit of a meta because we're kind of talking about it anyway, but I'm gonna get you to choose the top 3 meta armies. Well, I said mine a second ago, but if you can pick 3 who you think that are going to be the next top 3, because we haven't had like super majors yet to really kind of test the waters of what they're going to be. I think the reviving of the Silent King is probably going to push Necrons up, but we'll kind of see. But go on then. What's in no order at all? It has to be 1, 2, 3. Just what are your 3?
So I have my top one for sure. And I think it's Sisters, hands down. I think Sisters best army in the game right now. It's just mind blowing that they got the points reductions on Zephyrim and Seraphim after their second. Like they're just amazing. They play the secondaries well. They're so points efficient. They trade, they move, they shoot. They do literally everything you can want in a Warhammer army. So I think by and far they're the top army. I'm so conflicted about Necrons because on one hand I think they could be amazing, but I'm not sure how much of that is just the differential, right? So I think they might be top 5, but I don't know if they make my top 3.
The thing about Necrons, right? It's if you come up against someone who's got 40 flayed ones and they veils them turn 1, then that's like, oh, okay, that's that is a hardcore army because he's gonna pop the -1 to hit. They got a 5 of him. There's a lot of bodies there, and there's all the movement shenanigans where he can reanimate them and start wrapping everything. But then if they don't take flayed ones, then what are they doing? They're taking loads of destroyers. Like I'm almost going to say in every single list is going to be Silent King. But when people start to gear up for Silent King, and they just go, right, I'm just going to one-shot in turn 1 with like 50 like guard las cannons or whatever.
Exactly.
People are going to start to kind of work it out. But you got to realize with Necrons, yes, they got a lot better, but they still have bad saves.
Yes.
So they still fall down.
the base profile is still subpar, right? So that's the thing.
Yeah.
I guess the reason I'm curious is because when I look at an army and as far as like how I expect it to compete, I think about largely how are they scoring and how well can they score regardless of their opponent, right? So Necrons, I think, very interesting because a lot of their new secondaries, they have a lot that can score almost no matter what their opponent does. The new Canoptic one is crazy powerful, strong. If you're playing, I think there's going to be a lot of the custom dynasty again, of course, with the OBSEC and the pregame move. You just jump on points, you take it, you perform the action, boom, there's 4 points, and of course, Code of Combat becoming even more of an auto 15, and then there's one other one in there that's actually quite good situationally. Oh, it's your opponent picks 3 objectives and you it's normally it's a tall order, the way when I just say it like that, but it's like, oh, get 3 points for holding 2 specific objectives. If you hold all 3, get like 5 points, which means you can play lower points early game, make it up later on, or vice versa if you want to just. So those are the reasons that I'm interested to see how they compete. And frankly, it has nothing to do with a lot of like the improvements that everyone's talking about. I'm like, their secondary is just great, and this other stuff can hopefully help the army play closer to a normal level, because as you said, their profiles are kind of subpar.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna say sisters. I do think Quins are definitely up there in the top 3. And the third one, I'm really not sure. Honestly, I'm so uncertain about the future of 40K in a good way. I'm excited because the last few months, honestly, I got a little bit burned out on comp. When I went to LVO, I took Crusher, and I went 4-2, which is okay. But I'm looking at that, I'm like, but I could have probably, 4-2 is such a weird record because you could be someone that you swing so much from like a 5-1 or a 3-3. Like a 4-2 is kind of, it looks good, but it's, I
get
I don't know if I'm not doing a good way of explaining it, but it's like a good record, but also not an amazing record. So, and the game was just so insane for several months of like, well, here's Tau, deal with that, and here's, Nids, and so, I'm really excited for the way the game is now. But anyways, back to your question. You had said you think sisters?
I think
Maybe
sisters, Necrons, and Thousand Sons.
Oh, Thousand Sons. Yes.
Yeah.
Talk about an army that doesn't care what their opponent does.
Yeah, God, that's why, because they can pretty much just choose secondaries where they just go, I'm just going to sit here with my Terminators. I'm not too lasting anymore, so I'm going to be a bit aggressive if I need to, and I'm just going to score everything.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I totally agree. And I thought when they said they're going to get rid of Stranglehold, it was like, well, maybe this is going to hurt them.
Yeah.
And no,
no, because you can now take multiple secondaries from your book.
They're so good. We just got a Thousand Sons army done for the channel, and so we played a couple games. And I remember one of the games I was playing against Bridger, and I totally messed up. I lost my brick of Terminators. We're playing Magnus, so not mega comp, but lost him as well. And I was like, that's it. I can't play the game. And then we both had this realization of, I just need to run away, and I will still win the game. It was the most like Thousand Sons thing ever, where you're just like, oh, I just walk away, and he literally can't score any more points, and I've finished my whatevers. It's craziness.
Yeah, I love it when it comes down to that. We actually have the realization that you can win, but only if you do this one thing where it's not quite heroic, but you just hide.
Yeah, exactly.
So moving on to one sleeper pick. If there's one army that can creep from, like maybe B, C tier to get into the AS, who do you reckon your money is on?
Oh, that's so interesting. Okay, let's see. I almost need to go through them. Oh, GSC. GSC is going to be a sleeper for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Why?
Again, because their secondaries can be so strong regardless of the opponent. Them being able to take multiple of theirs is quite interesting. They play the board really well. They play Necron really well. So the question, it's a meta question. There are lists that are going to hard counter them, or there's armies, I should say. But I don't know. They just play the game really well. They have. When I look at that book and I say this is great. It has everything they need to succeed. Obviously they haven't, but that's my sleeper pick for sure.
Okay, I like that because one of my good friends, Tom Lohman, who went to a team tournament with, and we took him with Gene Silicott as the wild card, just because no one knows what they do. Like we'd always put them out first, and then people would be like, "What?
Yeah."
What's good into this? Custodians, you good into this? I don't know. Nids, you good into this? I've got no idea. Like no one knows what they do.
Yeah.
It's just that they deploy with markers and then they just pop up wherever they want to pop up.
Whatever they do, you say, yeah, sure. I don't know.
So what would you say? Gene Silicott is interesting. I quite like that because I would like to see more of them on the table. I know they're quite an expensive army to kind of collect because they're all in 5-man squads and all that sort of stuff.
They're crazy expensive, yeah.
But they are a really cool army for hobby. With the old meta picks from the last 2 months, we had Nids, Eldar, and Harlequins as the real big daddies of kind of the tournament scene. Where do you reckon Nids? I know you said Harlequins, so we'll ignore that. But where do you reckon like Eldar and Nids are kind of at now? If you could put them in like a tier system.
So I think Eldar got hit really hard.
Yeah.
It was absolutely brutal, and I feel bad because it was a codex that, we really were seeing Hail of Doom just dominate, specifically within that army, but obviously was doing well in the events. And while I think that list is still playable, it definitely took a huge hit. And the army is just so fragile. So I feel like there's not a ton of very viable builds. I think there's a lot of mid-board builds you can make for that army, and they'll be fun, they'll be flavorful, aspect warriors, blah, blah, blah. But I think, I think Hail of Doom is still the most interesting way to play it, and I would put them, I mean, upper B, lower A still, like better than a lot of armies, but they definitely took a hit. They're nowhere where they were before. And then Nids, I think Nids can still compete. I would still put them at least in A tier, upper A tier.
Yeah. Those warriors are still good. Like,
they're so good. Yeah.
I went to an event like I think it was like a month ago or something like that. It was one of the guy who runs LGT. He runs all of the tournaments in the UK, but like the majors. I mean, there's a couple of like other ones like Beachhead, which is next weekend, I think it is. And a few others dotted around, but he is like every month there's a major in a different city around England, and it's great because you just go traveling. It's great.
It's crazy.
Ads weekend. It's amazing. So like when I went to that tournament, I got Nids round 1, and it was the meta army. It was the army. I lucked out so much because he didn't turn up. And
Victory.
So I only managed to play the new Nids once before they got absolutely, well, they didn't get absolutely hammered, but they kind of got brought down to the level where everyone else kind of was. And I do like Nids. I'm always gonna have a soft spot for Nids because I did collect them. Like I said, I had an apocalypse size army with like barbed hero duels when they weren't even good. Like, I had something like 18 Carnifexes. Like
that is
a big old army, and it funded all of my Drakari as well. Which because I was like, I literally made a decision. I want a competitive army, so I sold Nids because they weren't.
Right. No.
For a long time, but now they kind of are.
So funny.
So I've always got a soft spot for them. So I am pleased that you still think they are good, and I know a lot of players that kind of like have been hobbyists for a while have bought Nids, bought more Nids, got really into the hobby. So it's good that they didn't obliterate them. But it's good to like bring balance to the force. So
exactly. I think they're another, for me the litmus test is always the Drakari book. They're another Drakari book in the sense that it's a very deep book. There's lots of combinations, and I think as things get adjusted or nerfed or whatever, people will adjust, and there's other parts of the book that will kind of come out on top. So, sorry about your harpies, but there's gonna be other things now.
Yeah. Just back to Drakari. Do you think they'll ever give core back to us?
Gosh, yeah, I was talking about this with someone the other day. I think it's not out of the question. You're looking at the coteries right now, and you can see how it was designed with Talos and Kronos having core in mind. There's some awkwardness with that, and I think when that book came out, it would have been crazy. I think the coteries are already way underrated. They were such a sleeper pick, but I think they were great. Would it be too much now? Maybe, but I don't think it's off the table. Like the fact that they reversed the AdMech stuff, I think is great. I think that was kind of the litmus test. Is like, cool, they're willing to change the game, but are they willing to say it's changed, so we're going to adjust things back or whatever? And that was probably one of the coolest things we saw out of that whole balanced data slate, was that willingness to adapt and kind of revert changes when necessary.
It was kind of the first time they kind of done that. Everyone was just like, they're going back on what they said, because usually it's like, nerf and then that's it. And like all of our Eldar chat would just go, oh, they're good. Are they doing it? Are they doing it?
Yeah.
They're doing Dark Terminators. I was campaigning. I was like, bring it back.
It's happening. So this is like a thought experiment I've been doing for the last few months. Is I think about, all right, the point of the game, the point we're in the game right now, how crazy would it be to just remove all the FAQs, all the like nerfing FAQs, not clarifying FAQs. And it's always like, what would that game look like were these earlier books just busted because of the differential?
Yeah.
Are they still busted? I think, ironically, out of all of them, the one thing that probably should never be touched is Dark Techno. Because, like, imagine if we had Dark Techno now, it would still be the best.
Those liquefiers, like, they were something else. And the reason why I got full Dark Technodom is because in the first episode of Realtus Raiders, they were like, they're talking about all of these sorts of things, and I was just like, you're all wrong. Like, it's Dark Technomancers. Dark Technomancers is so broken. And then the codex came out, and they're just like, oh, this new thing, Dark Technomancer. I'm like, no,
Oh my God,
it's not new.
no, it's always been. That was
Yeah.
that was definitely a funny thing. No, but people slept on it for a couple weeks. You know, I mean, I did a top 10 combos or whatever, and I think I got like 2 out of 10. You know, it's always so funny to see that.
So, what do you think about Blood Brides? I'm curious because now they're a little bit cheaper, aren't they? With the witches going down a point, do you think they bring them in?
Yeah, I think so. I think if you're gonna bring the witches, like, you need the AP now. Like you said, witches are they just struggle so hard against power armor and armor of contempt as well. You know, just sisters as well. Obviously, I'm thinking about. So, how much are they now? They dropped them a couple points.
So they dropped 1 point on the witches.
Okay.
It adds up over a squad. So
yeah, exactly. And it was because they had gotten up like 1 point for the witches and 2 points for the blood brides, I think, before. So now it's like a net 1 or 2 from what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, honestly. It's still just a ton of attacks with talking AP, and that's how you got to deal with. That's one of many ways to deal with armor contempt. We're all finding our ways to deal with that.
Yeah, it's because, like, I'm finding Cursed Blade is kind of the way to go because you got the mortals when you die for all the flayed ones attacks and Terminator attacks, but then you also have the strength, so you can take Adrenalite to give you all of those extra attacks. And Strife is sadly way too expensive with the stratagems now, and the CP cost, which, like, they obviously didn't. I think they didn't really think about that because all of the strats are so good, but they're all just so expensive.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is a bit of a shame, but like, I'm like, because I'm a little upset that Chaos isn't like mega broken, and I was hoping that my time was done. I'm waiting. I'm kind of waiting for like two super major weekends to go by, so then I can see who's like top Chaos, and I'm like, right, copy their list. Let's
get it. Yeah, it's such a funny book because I think, unfortunately, it's very well designed. I think they learned from all their mistakes, and they were, especially for Chaos book, right? You can tell they were very combo allergic. And you know, I've played Chaos for forever, and a lot of other Chaos people were just making mistakes right out of the gates, making assumptions on what could do what synergizes with what has core, what can take icons, and they're like, no, we got, like, we see you guys. We're not going to let you do that this time. I'm like, fair enough. It's better for the game, but it would have been nice.
It's almost like it's like a 10th edition codex. Like, they're like, we learned from you naughty guys. Like, we got you this time.
Fair. Well played, James. Well played.
I've been saying to a couple of guys in my local group that the one thing that brings them out of like the teething stage of the start of the codex, where people are really like theory crafting before going to these majors, is if you give obsec to Terminators, completely changes it completely, because then they would then copy Thousand Suns in the sort of builds.
Yeah.
And I actually think it would actually be a bit too much if they had Chaos had obsec, because of the the to hit transhuman you can give them delightful agonies, all these different buffs, and minus one to wound and all these different things. So I like how they didn't give them that, because, like, thinking about it, it would actually be terribly broken to have those meat shields as kind of with obsec. But I do like the way the book is written, and I'm pleased you said like it's a well written book, because it is. Like, I like how you have to take legionnaires if you want to take cultists. You can't just do massive cultist spam. I like that. I like how every legion has the flavor, because they've got all of the warlord traits, the relics, and there's like a page of relics, a page of warlord traits, and then a page of stratagems per legion. And it's really nice to see. And I actually didn't think Bile would actually have as much going for him as he does, because I quite like it. I do quite like it.
Yeah.
So obviously you said you're an Emperor's Children like fan and you're collecting at the moment. If you were doing like the top like 3 units for Emperor's Children, where does your head go to straight away?
Immediately Terminators, Noise Marines, and Lucius, right?
Yeah, he's great.
So Lucius is great as a source of fight last primarily. He's a cheap character. He comes with a bunch of stuff without costing CP, which of course is very important now. The Terminators, kind of as you mentioned, they're one of the few units that can really just absorb all the buffs. I love the strat support on the Emperor's Children.
Yeah.
Being able to, and they have core, and they can have marks. So with the priest, with the Dark Apostle, you can have them advance and charge, which you can have them auto advance 6. You can have them 6 plus D6 charge. So they just get in there. I like equipping them with Meltas, and you again do the strat where one of your hit wounds or damage will be a 6, so that Melta will be an 8 damage Melta if it reaches that half range. And it's just brutal. So they've been like the kind of spearhead. And the Noise Marines I was actually really happy with. Basically having the +1 damage inbuilt. The mortal wounds strat is great and actually points efficient. Although I will say the first time I procced it, of course, dropped the Dreadclaw down. It was not the full 30 shots because they had 2 Blastmasters there, but how many number shots that is? 0 mortal wounds in all the shots, of course. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be great. But still, Blastmasters at 4 damage, and the fact that Emperor's Children ignore all modifiers means that, again, moving with heavy weapons doesn't matter. Fighting with power fists doesn't matter. And there's, of course, prescience, so you can be hitting on 2s, re-rolling. So there's just so much synergy between those 3 units. And, of course, Dark Apostle has like a secret strat up because he kind of supports all 3 of those units as far as like just yeeting them forwards with advance and charge. So I've been super impressed with them. My only fear, of course, as someone who thinks that Harlequins are great, is of course the 1 CP full rerolls hit and wound against Slanesh units. But and it is melee, which is where they want to be. So
yeah. I do really like Noise Marines, but it's something Box said to me, and I was like, oh god damn, they're so expensive. Like you can get what are they, like 30 shots or whatever for like 285 points, with then a Dread Claw, which brings it up to like 300 or whatever.
What?
Yes, they're obsec, but then you can actually get 48 shots or something with 2 squads of Chain Gun Havocs, which are cheap.
Oh yeah.
It's cheaper, and it's like, and they're heavy, so then they get exploding 6s.
Exactly.
And it's like, what's better? I don't know.
It's brutal.
Yeah, but
I like the big shots from the Blastmasters too, though. Like having 6 4 damage shots, it's pretty nice.
Yeah,
it's pretty nice.
Yeah, it is really nice, especially if like you predict like Sisters are going to be the main one. You need those big 4 damage to kind of trying to hit those walkers that they have, because they are really good.
They're so brutal, and this army doesn't have a ton of obvious solutions for them. Not a ton of like targeted mortal wounds, but I take your point, and my biggest complaint is it drives me crazy that they don't have like chain swords or close combat weapons. It's like the Slanesh ability is literally all for melee, and yet this is like the Slanesh unit that doesn't have like, I don't know, Slanesh shanks, so you can put a fist on the champion and have him try to desperately fight off who charges you, but it just feels bad. There's no fall back and shoot, really. So
yeah. Other than Noise Marines, what would be going in that drop pod turn 1?
It's mostly them, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, truth be told, like the list I'm playing around with right now is 2 blocks of 10 Noise Marines, one Dreadclaw, 1 in a Rhino, and then 3 units of Legionnaires with the tome and everything, just kind of utility fighty. Unit of 10 Terminators, a couple throwaway cultist units for like trades and obsec and screening, and then Dark Apostle, and I have points to play with. I haven't made it a comp list. I know in the back of my head there maybe should be an Abaddon in that list, but the army is so elite. That's my actually the biggest difficulty with the book. Not complaint, but just difficulties. Like I put the army on the table. I'm like, this is the whole list.
Yeah.
Like this is not much to work with, and they're not that fast of an army.
No. I did that exact thing because obviously, like yourself, coming from like an MSU style of list,
Yep.
and then you used to 24 units, and then I literally set the army in front of me. I was just like, 10 possessed, 10 possessed, 10 Terminators, Noise Marines, Dreadclaw, Legionnaires, Cultist, Abaddon. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's no extra bits. It's just the all-stars. And the moment you start losing them, it feels real bad.
The worst thing would be is if you were super happy about that list, the list I just talked about there, and you rocked up to a super mage and you're ready to just smash face and all that sort of stuff, and you bring some nut job who you play a nut job who has just brought 3 units of 10 incubi in the coat
Yeah.
and it's just like, well, cool, your massive 3 blobs, they're all dead.
Yep. Exactly. So brutal.
God.
Oh my God. It's terrifying.
So moving on, because I just want to ask like your opinion on something, because
Sure.
a lot of these podcasts that I do, I talk to people who go to a lot of events, and the last episode was Zach, who runs all the UK events.
Yeah.
So for a lot of people that kind of watch the show, don't really, go to big events. They're kind of scared. They're kind of just not scared. They're kind of just wary that sometimes competitive play does have a bad rep.
Sure.
And from your experience, like maybe give some advice, and maybe to tell everyone like your experiences going from super majors, because obviously you've been to a lot of big events, and it'd be good for someone like yourself to actually talk about your experiences and why you do actually like going to these events.
Totally. Yeah. So, I will say this. I played tournaments for years and years and years ago, all the time. And I can count literally on one hand the amount of bad games I've had, like not fun experiences. That's it. And it's hundreds and hundreds of games. So I'll start with that. And then the second thing I'd say is there is kind of this encouragement to go to your local RTT game or shop and kind of play a tournament there, which I definitely wouldn't say don't. I'm not saying don't do that, but I think the big events are great because you get all these people coming and everyone's coming from different perspectives. You get people that are maybe just like you and they're coming to their first tournament ever. And because you're playing the 6+ rounds, especially by day 2 or by even round 3 sometimes, you're getting to be able to play people that are more closely matched with your not only skill level but even play style and stuff like that. Like, I think a lot of people worry about people being jerks or frankly people not being better than them, but by the end of the event, you've actually played people that maybe are at the same level as you. And so I think that's kind of my big thing for if you want to get started. I actually would go to a big event first before you go to a small event. And people are great. People are so nice. They're so kind. Don't listen. The people on the internet are not the people that go to these tournaments. So, I highly encourage people to go to them. It's just so much fun. And you also make friends. Like, as you go there, you see people and you go and you see them again. And it's like a sentence or two becomes a conversation next time. And then you guys are like, going out for dinner and stuff. And it's just a great community.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree with everything you said there, because I remember before I even went to my first like big event, I think I think even like coming out of COVID, like LGT, I was a bit like, oh, this is a big event. Oh, I don't know if I enjoy it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And that's when I got the competitive bug back again. I was just like, this is awesome. Like, just like you look to your right, there's like a freebooters list. And you look to your left, there's like this crazy night list where they've converted like like Primarchs and all from Horus Heresy, all that sort of stuff. I love the amount of hobby that goes into it, and there's always the great, like vote for your favorite painted army as well, and you can see all of the love that people bring to their army. Like that's one of my favorite bits is like after the first day, they put the painted armies out, and as you're having a burger or whatever you're doing, you're looking at all of these amazing armies.
Exactly.
People go there just to try and win painting awards.
100%.
You get people like people who have are like commission quality standard, but they just do it from like their shit up. So
Right.
that's another thing I like, and like you said, the social aspect is always great because I love like meeting new people, and
Yeah.
these events are a great thing to do, and
Yeah.
like it also helps like if you don't know many people in this hobby, go to an event. After one event,
100%.
you'll know people, and then you
Yeah.
can start playing with them, and you can meet up for games and all that sort of thing.
I definitely agree. I think there's no substitute for that. If you want to find people in your area, go to your tournament, your local tournament at your shop or whatever, and you find out like who's playing, where are they playing, what like online group, where they is it on like WhatsApp you guys use in the UK, we use Facebook,
Yeah.
but whatever, find where they're going to be at, and then you're part of the community. I think it's super exciting and it's a ton of fun. So definitely I wouldn't let people don't be scared off, and don't be afraid to do badly too. Like I was like when I first started going to tournaments, I was just hoping, I was just trying to go for my first win. It's like, cool, didn't get the golden the wooden spoon this time. And every time you like set the bar. I think setting expectations is important. You have people that sometimes like
Yeah.
go and they lose the first round and they just quit. They're like, oh well, now I can't win the whole thing. It's like, calm down, you weren't gonna win the whole thing anyways. Set your expectations.
Yeah.
But like going and being like, I want my first win, can I get 2 wins now? And you kind of progress each time. It makes it so much more rewarding, rather than like, can I just podium right in the beginning? And that's kind of the fun of it, is having this like long-term progression through the season or the years or whatever. And I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and also it's the experience of also even when you lose, you're playing someone
Mhm.
who's better than you and has beaten you at this. So like when Manny beat me at a team event, I loved
Mhm.
it because we had a great
Mhm.
time. Like Manny's absolutely lovely, and if people here haven't gone back and watched the Manny interview I had,
Mhm.
amazing guy, and he's a
Totally.
he's a great 40k player. But I learned a lot from the way he plays, and
Mhm.
it was it's those sorts of experience which I really relish. So if I know I'm trying to play at a high level, and if I lose against someone, there's a reason
Mhm.
for it, and I like to
Yeah.
learn from it. um so we're kind of running out of time here because I like to use like commuter length, and
Sure.
I really 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 want to talk about your terrain,
Yeah.
because I would love to get some, and you've got a Kickstarter and all that sort of stuff.
Mhm. Mhm.
People might be wondering, terrain? Adrian's got terrain? Like,
Yeah. What a crazy
so,
idea, right?
yeah. So Tabletop
Yeah.
Titans have released a Kickstarter. Is this the second round for the Kickstarter? Is it the first round?
This is the first round, and actually, it's just wrapping up right now. So it's on. You can still go to Kickstarter and find it, but like literally, as of today's recording, it is in the warehouse, ready to ship. So
Ooh.
crazy exciting! Like it's there, it's in the warehouse. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what it is basically, it is a whole table of 40K terrain in a box. And I've played on DVD collections and whatever you can get at the time, because
Yeah.
it's so, terrain's expensive, terrain's heavy, terrain is big, takes time. As you mentioned, like, we like doing the hobby aspect. Some people aren't into that as much, right? So what we wanted to do is find a way to kind of try to solve this problem of like cost and space and all this stuff. And so it's a whole box of terrain in I don't know, like a UK measurement size.
Yeah.
It's maybe like a foot by a foot, basically, 15 inches, and it's all pop up. It's like a kid's pop up book where each tile opens up, folds out, and you have your terrain come out of that. So it's crazy light, it's crazy durable, and it's also super affordable. And so yeah, we basically have the core box, which is a full table, and then we also have the expansion, which gives you a few more sets. That has like the big giant cathedral, which is super cool, and also has some great things for comp play, such as like the half tiles, because that
Yeah.
lets you offset everything and really create amazing combinations. So you guys can check it out. It's on titansterrain.com. And yeah, like I said, it's actually in the warehouses now. Officially, it's ready to ship. So if you place your order now, you should be getting it soon. It's been a long road, and I'm excited that we're finally here.
I think it's really cool, and it actually looks legit.
Yeah,
It looks really good. It
thank you.
looks like, so I used to play, where is it? It's up there somewhere. Zombie Side. Have you ever played Zombie Side?
No, but I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the way that's kind of printed on it is the exact same quality that you guys have got, and
Mhm.
it's not like, oh, it's just a bit, it's just this black cardboard or whatever like that. It's actually like high quality
Mm.
printed, and you don't you, like you can actually see all the streets, all of the different textures that are all over these buildings. And I think it's a very good set to kind of buy, especially if you don't have a lot of space. So like,
Yes.
I live in a flat in just outside London, and there's I've got good storage, but I couldn't have like a big like massive suitcase full of like terrain that I've made out of like Coca-Cola cans and all this sort of stuff. And
Exactly.
your terrain would just fit in my shelf just there in a little box, and all I need to do pop the lid off and out it comes. So I think it's great. I think it's something that I cannot believe that hasn't been done.
I
Like,
know, it's crazy, right?
I bet Games Workshop maybe looked at it and went, damn it.
Should have done it. Should have gone in on it. I know, it's funny because the D&D community has had pop-up terrain, but it's always been like print it yourself, cut it out, build it yourself, right? So it's like that next step of you have to do literally nothing, like open the box and unfold it. That was the big thing,
Yeah.
And it's been fascinating. We hired a paper engineer, which I didn't even know was a job that existed. He does all the kids pop up. He did the Paddington book,
Yeah.
And so this guy is a wizard with paper. It's crazy. And so yeah, it's what makes the magic work.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I think it's really cool, and I'm really gonna think about getting a box of this because it would be perfect. And for like if you're watching this and you run a club like in your local hall or anything like that, perfect. You just get a couple of those, and you don't have to pay for these humongous like storage boxes where you keep all your terrain. Yeah, I think it's really good. And so with this run, so have you already got plans in the works for like phase 2?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the idea is we want to come out with more sets. We want to do them different styles, different seasons, and potentially expanding to other kind of styles and layouts depending on different even different mission packs for 40K and stuff like that. So we're looking at all of that. This was really I guess not kind of nerve-wracking because you put it out there and you're like, hope people like it, and we loved it and it went well, and now we're delivering the product. So it's kind of like showing the world that we can do this, and we're like in this game, and so now we can kind of go forwards and start on the next one. So we have exciting stuff in the works, I'll say that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, so this is the part where you tell everyone where to find you.
Yeah, you guys can find me at Tabletop Titans over on YouTube. We play games every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And we do have a membership if you guys want to join, where you can vote on every Tuesday's game, get some more behind the scenes footage and all that stuff. So come on by, say hi, and we'd love to see you there.
Yeah. And thank you so much for coming on this episode, Adrian. I've really enjoyed chatting to you, and I think a lot of people will really enjoy this as well. Everyone, please go and subscribe to Adrian's channel. And also, if you haven't subscribed to mine and you're watching this, please subscribe, because I get a lot of people who don't. And please, because I'd like to do a few more of these interviews, and subscribing and comments and likes do help out a lot. Yeah, Adrian, thank you so much. You've been amazing, as always. You always are. And like everyone, go buy the train, go support Adrian, go watch his stuff. And yeah, I've been Dom, and thanks everyone for watching.